This man gets about 5 minutes of free time at this time of the year in maybe a 10-week span after doing a brilliant job on the TNT on the NBA playoff games. Just tremendous. Then he would spend his time with us, though. His free time is amazing.
A week off all year.
And we welcome to the show the great Ian Eagle. As you know, Ian, there's been a rather large and dark pall cast above the show in spite of all the great things that are happening with our South Florida teams. But the passing of the Iron Sheik has had a tremendous impact on this program. I don't know if you feel the same thing.
Well, I knew you were going to lead with this.
Yeah. It's the most important thing. Never mind that Trump's under indictment. Yeah.
I swear, I knew you were going to lead with it. Into high school years, there was a kid in a couple of my classes named Richie Basili, Forest Hills High School.
Okay.
Ranger Pride is citywide. And Richie was even more into wrestling than I was. And he would write wrestling scripts during Spanish class. Senor. He would write scripts on. And I'm not talking about 4 lines on a page. I'm talking about pages on pages, specific moves. He would come up with characters for each of the people that he was friendly with. And I became the Iron Sheik.
Oh my God.
Did you have to wear the pointy shoes? Because where do you get a pair of them?
I
go to Canal Street, it's some knockoff store.
There was a lot in there. A lot in there that was accepted in 1984 that may not have been accepted here in 2023. Anyway, Richie ends up becoming a highly accomplished television sports director in the NASCAR world. Worked at Fox, he's worked at ESPN, he's a great dude. Yes, I knew you were leading with the Iron Sheik, and I was fully prepared with 2 stories. R.I.P. Iron Sheik.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
And a very pleasant good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Defo Show here on this fine Tuesday. Jeff DeForest and a very jolly, a very happy Mike Lubitz, and we're glad to be with you. For a couple of hours here, talking about all the various things that are going on in the sporting world. And we've had to branch out a little bit. It's not the usual no-brainer. Just go to sleep at night after watching a playoff game, get up in the morning, and start fetching about Ekblad and Kachuk, and whether or not the Heat had enough firepower to stay with this team or that team. Very exciting run that we had, and sometimes I guess what. You've had many occasions, Lubie, where you've been in a somewhat long-term relationship and then it ended. And, for a couple of days, you're thinking, geez, I'm a little lost here. I don't know. I don't know that I really had that reaction. Usually I was celebrating the definitive end of a relationship where you put the final nail in the coffin and just said, you know what, that's it. I never want to see you again.
Yes, I envy you. I've had it twice where it lasted more than a few days. It's like an hour. And you're like, all right, good. Freedom.
I probably already had my next move planned out.
Exactly.
That might have been the cause of the end of the relationship also, the main one. But, it's sometimes a little tough to let go and get moving in another direction, especially, now you have to get used to a whole nother set of circumstances. I mean, you don't know if she likes to eat fish. You don't know if she likes to stay up late. Does she like to have sex in the middle of the night? I mean, are you going to pretend that you still have that in you in terms of your libido? That, because it always starts out great. And then, I don't know, how long does it take before the indifference sets in with you, Mike Lubie?
I don't think
obviously you're able to sustain this kind of passion with the lovely Shirley. You still speak of her in very fond terms whenever you speak of her on the air, although we know that she has you completely under her thumb and at this point in all respects. And let's face it, I mean, when you're depending on the woman in your life financially, that it's a little tricky too, right? I had to send the Mustang back to work. It was like, I don't know, what do you want me to do here? Until we catch up, we'll have to just rough it and make things happen any way that we can. But I mean, I don't know that there was going to be a long period of adjustment, but is it enough, Lubie? Is it enough to see what's happening with your Miami Marlins, who are right now writing a terrific story in Major League Baseball? I don't know that we invest enough emotion in baseball here. We certainly have reason not to, as we have been neutered, literally crippled emotionally by what the Marlins have done. I mean, they've dashed all of your hopes over the last several years. It's been since 2003. They had was that their only playoff run since 2003 in the COVID year? Was that the only time they made the postseason? Right, unbelievable.
Yes.
That's a long stretch of futility, is it not? 2003 to 23, 20 years of just utter outright futility. And the only time that we got any satisfaction, a measure of success out of this team, was in a fluke hybrid year where they only played like 60 games. And they did manage, what'd they go, 32 and 28, something like that?
Yeah, something like
Made
that.
the postseason. They beat the Cubs in a series. And we thought, man, maybe we're onto something here. But quickly, right away, the pin was stuck right there in our blow-up doll. All the air just came, sucking right out of there as they went right back to being a nothing team, an inconsequential team. All of the blather about Derek Jeter and what a winner he was. I bought into that, Lubie. I probably was more a victim of that and a purveyor of that nonsense than you. You always had your doubts, but you're skeptical about everything. I bought into all the other logic, which was, Derek Jeter wouldn't be doing this to be a loser. I mean, he's in this to prove that he's a winner and that he had the wherewithal, the moxie to be a successful baseball executive. And who better to judge winning talent, guys that are in there to win it, than a guy like Derek Jeter, who was all about that throughout his brilliant career with the New York Yankees. And it turned out, I mean, we couldn't have been any more dead wrong. I mean, this guy may as well have been Isaiah Thomas in cleats. Because, and by the way, isn't that interesting that Isaiah Thomas is going to be back in some form of NBA management or influential with the Phoenix Suns? And supposedly was Chris Paul is saying that he was the guy that really was the trigger, the catalyst in convincing the owner to trade Chris Paul. Isaiah Thomas, and he's supposedly going to assume a role with the team. Why would you do that, right? You have billions of dollars, and you're going to go ahead. It's kind of like the Mike Tannenbaum syndrome, is it not? Where you're asking yourself, how could anybody qualify this guy as an expert to comment on anything when he was one of the biggest failures? He buried a couple of franchises, buried them.
Yeah, he ended a league. The CBA was actually doing okay until Isaiah Thomas got a hold of it.
Yeah. Well, Thomas, his failed tenure with the New York Knicks as an executive, I mean, just an abortion. And what? He was also with the Pacers for many years.
Yes.
Isaiah Thomas, and wasn't exactly very successful there. Was he there when Larry Bird was the coach? Isaiah Thomas? I don't want to say that. I don't think they overlapped, yeah.
No, I think Bird was like the president and then the coach. Bird was in a very similar role to Pat Riley. That would actually be the first thing that makes sense as to why they went and got Bradley Beal.
Yes.
Isaiah's involved.
A move that, you look at on the surface and you're saying, how does this really help you? Would you not have been better off with 5 guys like Max Strus, like the Heat have on their roster?
That's literally what they need. That's exactly what they need is some kind of bench help. Even if it's like guys like the Nuggets where you have 2 or 3 guys. They have 0 bench help. Shamet was the closest thing to bench help, and they traded him.
You had enough scoring, too, with Booker and Durant, just based on what we saw in the postseason when each of those guys was going for 40 a night. It wasn't like you were having trouble scoring a basketball. But, and I don't know. Do you need another guy that's going to chuck it up there and not do much else for you? Probably not. That reeks of Isaiah, doesn't it?
Yeah, makes perfect sense. You saying that is the first time clarity in days. I literally was wondering why. And then you saying that, it's like, bingo.
That opened my eyes to a lot of things that were going on with that. I mean, I don't blame them at all for trading Chris Paul. Chris Paul, I think, did he have 1 year left on his contract?
Yeah, he's old and he gets hurt every playoffs. Like literally, that's the issue. Remember, they were a 1 seed. They actually finals. They were right. They were leading the Bucks that finals, and Paul got hurt. Paul literally gets hurt every playoff. So it's not the Paul move. It's why did you get Beal? that's my.
Well, they don't have any depth whatsoever. Aiden, and that's it, right? I mean, they're pretty much done after that. Behind Booker and Durant. Now they have Bradley Beal. Chris Paul for Bradley Beal in and of itself, if that was a straight-up trade at this stage of their careers, you would have to say it was beneficial to get Beal. But At what expense? And, it does reek of Isaiah. Now, we thought that maybe Kim Ng of the Miami Marlins, who now would have to be considered, at least at this stage of the season, if the year ended today, who would be the executive of the year? Would it be the GM of the Tampa Bay Rays? Or would you not have to give consideration, executive of the year, to Kim Ng?
Oh, yeah.
Who took a team that was literally buried, dead, finished, a non-consideration, and has them now at 11 games over 500, 42 and 31. It was a juxtaposition of a lot of different things orchestrated by Kim Ng that seems to have this team on the rise, including a gutsy trade. Does it take balls? I mean, that's probably a bad choice there, considering we're talking about a female general manager. But does it take a certain amount of chutzpah and that would be appropriate here in Miami, right? With or is Miami even still? They're probably not heavily Jewish.
Broward.
Jewish populated, anymore because what? Because it's all Hispanics, right?
Broward, Palm Beach is more Jew than.
So chutzpah, is it appropriate to associate a word like chutzpah with the Miami Marlins? But I mean, you have to look at it, and we couldn't have panned her moves any more than we did. Jorge Soler looked like nothing special. They gave up, and obviously Pablo Lopez was going to be a key part, you thought, of any success that the team might have. He was their number 2 starter behind the Cy Young Award winner, Sandy Alcantara, who has gone south. So even more reason that you would need to have a solid number 2 in there. Lopez, I haven't tracked him lately, Lubie. Is he still doing well with the Minnesota Twins? Pablo Lopez? Started out very, very well. You couldn't be too critical of the trade because Arise has been brilliant, and now is the number 1 story on SportsCenter. Louis Arise with his 5 for 5 last night, and the Marlins 11-0 win over Toronto. Garcia, Avisail Garcia, he's injured now. I haven't seen him around for a while. If they had traded him, you wouldn't even notice because he had no impact on the team. Seemed like a complete bust. Between Garcia and Soler last year, you would have written Kim Ng off as a complete failure. You're looking at some of the other positions that she's been unable to upgrade behind the plate there. You got 2 guys that are hitting like $160 that share the role. And you're wondering, how could you have these guys doing this for a couple of years on your roster? Kim Ng, she does, kind of, I don't know, was she involved at all, you think, in the departure of Don Mattingly? That would have been interesting. A first-year GM coming in and telling Donnie Baseball, hey, you're out of here, kid. We don't like your style.
It feels like she was involved in bringing in a lifer in Schumacher to be her manager. We've seen that time and time again. Management always wants their person. She gave Mattingly another year, see if he turned it around. He did not turn around. It went the other way. And now she brought in Schumacher, who at least right now is looking like manager of the freaking year.
He's looking very solid. Now, what is it? I mean, we hate to tarnish the reputation of Don Mattingly. I don't know. I mean, does Schumacher know that much more about managing a baseball team than Don Mattingly, who had previous managerial experience at the highest level with the Dodgers? You would think that Mattingly would hold the edge in that category. Schumacher been around a great organization there with the St. Louis Cardinals. He was the bench coach. What exactly does the bench coach do? If you have a manager, do you need a bench coach? There's so many coaches now on these staffs of different teams. Doesn't it seem absurd? Like, how much credit do you give the manager or the head coach when a head coach on a basketball team has 11 assistants? That's insane. On a football team, the head coach has how many assistants now? How many assistant coaches are with the Dolphins? Like 15?
Oh, good. Football's insane. You know that. They have like 6 strength coaches.
How many coaches do you need? I mean, literally, Lubie, how could you possibly listen to that many voices?
They have like the quality control, and then they have like an assistant quality control, and then they have like the quality controls assistant. Like football, they have like 50 coaches. It's like fucking stupid.
It's insane, yeah. You would think that the manager himself, though, would be able to fill the role of the bench coach, who's probably saying, hey, so-and-so's 2 for 3 against this guy, lifetime. I don't know. What exactly does a bench coach do?
I don't know. I think what Julian says is the rare time the manager gets thrown out, the bench coach.
That's it? That's the only time you find out who the bench coach is?
How often are you trying to get thrown out? Like, do they even get thrown out that much anymore? This isn't like when you had Pinella, Like, it's rare that guys get thrown out now. Like, guys don't go and lose.
I've seen some guys get tossed out
They have
just this past week.
replay. I mean, okay. Well, then I didn't
A
know.
replay would be a reason to get tossed out. Well, when you look at a replay that's so obviously going to correct an error that was made in the field, and the team challenges and they don't allow it, and you see it time and again, you would think, yeah, running out there and calling the umpire a blind son of a bitch probably is not inappropriate. No, I've seen some managers get kicked out of games. I don't know that Schumacher, I don't think he's been ejected from a game yet, has he? I want to say no to that. Skip Schumacher. But whatever they're doing, it's working. 11-0 yesterday over Toronto, Lubie. 42-31, remarkable. Every time they win another game and extend this above 500 mark, you get another stat that goes back to like 1993 or whatever. I mean, the last time, 97. I don't even know if there were 11 games over 597. I guess 2011 was the last time that this team raised any kind of a gallop. And that had to be, 2011? Who was on that team?
I don't know. It was in 2011.
That's too far back for the Stanton Ozuna lineup. Who did they have in 2011? I don't
know.
They've been so nondescript forever. Is this a team that you can embrace? You can certainly embrace Luis Arise and his approach to the game. He just seems to be having a good time out there. Not the most eloquent in terms of English, but very, very comprehensible. And he just expresses the whole idea that he's having a blast playing baseball. Very, very easy guy to relate to. The modern-day Miggy, I guess if we're going to lose Miggy Rojas, this Luis Arise could easily take over that role in terms of popularity with the team. Hasn't been there that long, but hitting 400 through June 19th and now June 20th, no small accomplishment. I mean, this isn't a guy that just came up and went 4 for 14 or something. And you're going, wow, look at that. He's hitting 400. No, we're talking about, a guy that's had, a couple of hundred of at-bats already. I mean, like 250.
It's not even that. It's the era we're in. Like back in the day, like when Allrood and Galarraga that year flirted with it, you had bunches of guys with 350 and 340 and 330 and 370. He's at 400 right now, and the closest guy is Acuna Jr. at 325. Like 325 is number 2. Like that's what's crazy about it. It's the era where they do not appreciate hitting for average. They actually poo-poo hitting for average. They don't even keep track of hitting for average.
No.
Most of the people. Like that's what makes it actually more amazing to me, not less. It's actually in the era where they just shit at hitting for average. This dude's like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to hit for average. I'm going to get on base. And my team is now 11 games over 500. And I'm a large part I'm a large part of it.
Well, it's great. I mean, you start an inning if he's, at the beginning of an inning, getting on base, nothing wrong with that. He comes up with the bases loaded, just drives the ball wherever the opening is. And 5 for 5 in the game last night. Joined some pretty illustrious company in terms of that's his third 5-hit ball game in the month of June. He did slide in there an 0 for 15 slump very briefly. And remember, you were saying yesterday, Lubie, there it goes. Right? His average was down to like 380, and it was only a matter of time before he was going to be hitting 299, right? Like the Mick. That was his big, regret of his career, Mickey Mantle. That he played too long, and I think he hit like 260 his last year, dropped his lifetime average to 299, Lubie, the Mick. Can you imagine? The Mick under 300, which, you rarely saw during his career. He's usually somewhere around 340, like you said. I don't know why people dismiss it. Am I just an old fool going old school? Mike Lubie Lubitz, by paying so much attention to batting average, it offends me when you see guys hitting 220 and being lauded as being among the greats of the game. Speaking of greats of the game, though, these are the guys that have had 5 hits in a month. You go back to Twinkle Toes, George Sisler, 1921, old Twinkle Toes. Wow. Ty Cobb, not bad company to be in. Ty Cobb, the honor is Ty Cobb. And Dave Winfield did it 3 times in a month in 1984. The other 2 guys were in 1921, 1922. So a rarity, my friend. And I believe the record for 5-hit games in a season, I believe, is shared by 3 other players, and they've done it 4 times. So if Arise can do it one more time the rest of the season, he joins some pretty elite company, which I think includes Ty Cobb and the Bambino. That's possible. I believe Babe Ruth might be one of those guys.
Sarni brings up a good point. They do have this shift blocker where you can't shift or whatever. But I don't know. I haven't watched Rise, but wasn't he hitting pretty high average even before this? And like,
well, he won the title, the batting title last year.
Like an old school dude where he's not a masher where like you're doing this crazy shift on him. Like he's a contact guy. Aren't contact guys notably known for hitting to quote unquote all fields? So
he hits to all fields. Yes, you can't shift on this guy.
What shift would you put on for him? Like, I'm not saying it doesn't hurt.
It might shade maybe slightly to the left, even though he's a left-handed hitter.
I would hope that he'd be the kind of guy that could actually take advantage of
it. You couldn't have the second baseman playing on the other side of second base, though.
Advantage of it? Wouldn't he just fucking kill you? I don't know.
We've wondered he could do it all day. Yeah,
we wondered about every hitter why they don't just bunt.
If he shifted, if he shifted on a rise, he would put the ball through the hole every time that you left. You could not have three guys lined up on one side of the infield against this guy. Two of his hits last night, he drilled a couple of singles to center, and then two of them were to the left side.
Yeah, that's what he does. That's what I thought. Like he's known.
And then he also had one down the right field line. So he's all over the place. He's a line drive contact hitter.
Yeah,
and but a hard line drive contact hitter. It's not like he's Bud Harrelson up there, and you hope that his line drive is able to reach the infield dirt. This is a guy that pounding the ball. He gets a good lick on the ball, but not the kind of guy that's going to try to raise everything out of the ballpark. Only has 2 home runs on the season, and is unlikely to hit 10 for the year. But I'll take this guy every time over some guy that's striking out 4 times a game, then comes up the next night, hits a home run, and everybody's, oh, look at that, Schwarber, what a player.
See, I'm curious because again, we see this with we always talk about the NFL being a copycat league. I'm curious if a guy like this and the success the Marlins are having will open up the eyes of other people, like the Yankees. Look at the Yankees. They keep signing this guy and that guy, and they're fucking struggle every time. Like the Mets keep signing this guy and that guy, and they struggle every time. I wonder if it'll open up the eyes of other people. Go, maybe we've gone too fucking insane with the analytics where we bastardized the game, and maybe you just want to score fucking runs. Like maybe it doesn't matter how we get the goddamn runs. Like getting people on base is not a bad thing.
Making contact is not a bad thing. That was the big emphasis when I was growing up as a kid. Make contact. And we put a lot of weight on batting average. Home runs, obviously, if you were a home run hitter, you wanted to hit a bunch. But for the most part, you were much better off if you were making contact all the time. Put the ball in play. That's been the biggest beef with the game anyway.
Yep.
Is that the ball's not in play. Anyway, remarkable stuff they're coming from the Marlins. Is it enough to get you to buy in to the idea that they really are contenders, Mike Lubitz? And can we give Kim Ng and Skip Schumacher manager and GM of the year?
I wouldn't go there yet. But
a little soon for that, huh?
I will apologize for saying they should fire her.
She looked like she was insane to me.
I'm like, she made all these moves.
You have to judge, on the circumstances also. You're asking yourself, what can a person do under these circumstances? Can they be especially innovative and, be like the Tampa Bay Rays? You're wondering how they do it year after year after year. They are operating under impossible circumstances by comparison to even the Marlins. And yet every year they put a good product out there. And nondescript players, you don't know, anybody on the team. When a guy gets decent, as soon as he does, boom, he's somewhere else, much like the Marlins syndrome was for many, many years. I don't know that won't continue. If somebody was in a position to make a gargantuan sum, are they not destined to be shipped by this Miami Marlins team? They managed to sign guys for modest salaries by comparison to some of the others. Think about this. So what do you have? You have $80 million worth of pitchers, both 40 years old at the top of the Mets rotation. They finally got a little consistency working now with Scherzer. Verlander had a good start the last time out, but neither of these guys is really lighting it up. Scherzer still has an earned run average of over 4, and you're paying this guy $40 million a year at 40 years old. Now, do his credentials merit that? Maybe. But you always know when you're paying these kind of big, fat salaries, you're usually paying a guy for what he did in the past. And many times, as we've seen, we've been talking about this, you have guys like Francisco Lindor, who's hitting .216 so far this year. .216. Has some home runs, but not enough to justify a .216 batting average, especially when he's going to be a guy that you're paying $40 million a year to. It's crazy. The Mets, though, being well behind the Marlins is one of the remarkable stories of this baseball season, is it not? All of a sudden, too, the Cincinnati Reds are drawing attention. The Cincinnati Reds, who have been dormant forever. When was the last time they were good? When Marge had Shotzi on her lap, sitting in front of a giant swastika in her office there, and nobody even noticed the swastika. Nobody made mention. Nobody made mention. Hey, Marge, how you doing? Good to see you. Yeah. Can I get a couple of tickets? I want to take my grandson to the game. Right, man. Here's this big Nazi flag. Nobody saw that in the Major League Baseball offices. That was not even slightly unnerving to the Major League Baseball people at the time. Why? Because Marge had a lot of money. How did she make her money, by the way? Was she married to some guy that was in the used car business in Cincinnati? Probably owned the Skyline Chili franchise. Maybe she started that, right? That hideous stuff that, unfortunately, I mean, look, if you like a certain item, that's great. But still, it's inconceivable that Mike Mayo, the gambling gourmet, the sophisticated food critic for the Sun Sentinel, the man who's in charge of a Facebook page that has 108,000 subscribers that all want to eat something, and he's out there, poo-pooing the merits of Skyline Chili, which in essence is like disgusting swill, is it not? Come on, Lubie. I mean, the false advertising there is so bad. It'd be like if you said you were selling lemonade, and it turned out it was like, an egg cream.
It's not even close to lemonade.
Not even close. I mean, not even in a ballpark of chili. It's offensive to anybody that likes chili that somebody would call that and consider that as being in the category. But nonetheless, but what would look like it was going to be another nondescript, ugly, inconsequential, sub-500 season, at least has taken on a little bit of a bouquet of promise, has it not? When do we buy in, though, Lubie? At what point do we start saying, okay, this is legit, we can expect them, you're going out there against Toronto again tonight, and we expect a victory? When do you start counting on them in that category? That might take a while,
weird.
right?
I'm keeping track of them. I'm paying attention to them.
Yuli Perez on the hill tonight to try and extend the winning streak to 7.
Look, the guy I think he's 4-1.
4-1, 1.80 ERA.
Or 1.8 something ERA. Yeah. He's had one bad start. Every other start's been tremendous. And they're putting up runs. Look, they're not just doing that 1-run, 2-run bullshit. They're giving their pitchers 3-4 runs every game.
Well, and the bullpen pitches the entire game last night. They started with a reliever in there, Hoeing, and he goes 4 innings, shutout ball, and then the rest of the crew came in and gave up 0 runs. That would have never happened in the past. Floro didn't pitch, did he? That's the one guy that scares me when he comes out of the pen there. And what about the skinny kid? What's his name? Barbizon or something? Isn't that blue stuff that you have at the barbershop? They used to keep the combs in, keep the cooties off. Barbizon. Anyway, all of those guys ended up having a big effort last night. A 5-hit game by Luis Arraez was the big story. Number 1 lead story. He's back up to 400, and the Marlins appear to be for real. All right, a lot of other things going on. A couple of things, and it was a good night of watching baseball, Lubie. I watched a lot of baseball last night. I love the College Baseball World Series. I really do. I don't know that I could watch a lot of college baseball during a regular season. I suppose, you tune into a game, you're curious to see what level of talent there is playing at the Division I college baseball level. And I am awestruck by the kind of players that are out there in this College Baseball World Series. Have you seen some of these pitchers that are going that kid from LSU the other night was amazing. Tennessee has a guy on the mound. He comes in the 5th inning and throws, what would that be, 5 shutout innings. I think he might have gone 6. He might have come in the 4th inning. And is throwing a ball up there at 100 miles an hour, has a brilliant breaking ball, a curve ball that breaks up and down. And, well, I guess it only breaks down. But, just straight down. He had a slider that was almost untouchable. And I'm thinking, and this guy came in relief for Tennessee. Big time. I think you're seeing a lot of first-round draft picks in this College Baseball World Series. Certainly some of the hitters have unbelievable, unfathomable stats where they're hitting 370 with 35 homers on the season. Pretty impressive, but good action in the College Baseball World Series. You had Wake Forest, the number 1 seed, and they were in action yesterday against LSU, who's always very good. And Wake Forest ended up winning that ball game 3-2. So they stay in the winner's bracket, which is a humongous advantage in the College Baseball World Series and trying to win the championship. And then you had Stanford eliminated. Is there crying in baseball, Louie? How do you feel about it when you see guys crying after they lose? Somehow, I don't know. A lot of people are touched by that. The TV cameras are naturally attracted to it. The director must be yelling, "Get the kid who's crying!"
Yeah, like
But
I'm not mad at him. I never won at the
it
level.
seemed a
these
little
guys
weak.
did.
I mean, come on, crying. Stanford, you're playing baseball
I've
for
never
Stanford.
understood the crying. I will openly say that I don't understand. Like when you win, I actually understand crying more than when you lose. Like when you work really hard and you finally get there, and your tears of joy. I can
Yeah.
see that. Tears of frustration. That is one I don't get, because to me, you should just be motivated to keep getting better. The tears thing, I never got tears with losing. That I frustrated, anger, sadness, fine, but actual tears, like I never understood that.
I mean, all of the people that played at Stanford, all of the great athletes, right, including McEnroe, Tiger Woods. I mean, you've had so many go through there. John Elway, right? Uh, all of these guys. I mean, I had to be disgraced watching this baseball team. And these are intelligent guys too, the kind of guys that can rationalize. You know what? Hey, it's only a game. Come on. I mean, which side would you line up on there? Guys crying. It was like massive too. There were like a half a dozen Stanford players, just absolutely. I mean, you would have thought that the team bus had crashed, and that they were the only guys that didn't get on it. Just looking at this as a catastrophe, eliminated in 2 games, seemed a little weird to me. Right, like Little League-esque, did it not? Watching, yeah, I know you weren't watching this, but
I haven't watched it, but if you're saying they were crying because of College World Series loss, I don't get that. That I will.
come on. I mean, let's grow up a little bit there, guys.
Let's grow.
You
up.
guys are going to be the future, shapers of industry and the arts and medical science in this country. And you're crying over losing a baseball game. You're worthless and weak. It's Niedermeyer time. I don't know. I mean, am I being insensitive to the fact that this meant a lot to these guys? By the time I was 19, I wasn't crying after losing a baseball game. Were you, Lubie? I never did. I was never one to cry after sustaining a loss, no matter how hideous, even in a boxing match, right? Are you going to sit there and cry? You got to be kidding me. That was kind of strange. They have like a couple of games going. It seems like every day. I don't know if there are 2 games on the slate today. I think there might. That would have to be, wouldn't there, to hustle this thing along? Let me check the TV listings here. College baseball. 2 games today. TCU and All Roberts. And Tennessee, who would they play? Tennessee would be playing a loser or a winner. Tennessee won yesterday. They're in a loser's bracket. But anyway, a couple of games a day. The talent has been phenomenal. That's been on display. Really incredible. I mean, I go back to my days on the freshman team there at Syracuse. Well, we didn't have players like this. Nothing even close. Maybe you had one guy on a team that was, supposedly, destined for the pros. But in general, nothing even close to what you're seeing today. Pretty incredible. Surprising, too, that more college baseball players. I mean, remember how high we were on J.J. Bleday? Wow, this guy's going to be great. And is he doing anything? Well, where did he get banished to? Seattle? Where is he now?
No clue. I have no idea.
I mean, they might have traded him to a Japanese team. J.J. Bleday. Thought he was going to be good. Well, we bought all of that shit, too, that they were feeding us, didn't we? We wanted to believe, Lubie. We were Tug McGraw
I mean, I didn't
at
buy
those spring
it.
training sessions.
I kept an open mind. Like I tried not to slam it. I tried to give them a chance when they were going to build with the fucking minors and make this great minor league system that literally not one player out of their minor. Look,
The anti-Dave Dombrowski built up the minor leagues.
Chisholm wasn't their minor league guy, but they got him, and then I guess he went through the minors. Maybe, I guess. I don't know. He's been a total disaster. I mean, they literally don't have one guy that's gone through the minors that has been successful at the plate. Now, their pitchers, they've done actually a really good job with their pitchers, but their hitters, the only hitters that are doing well are all the hitters that they got from other teams. Their minor league system, when it comes to their lineup, has been a total fucking disaster.
They've been more represented, and their benchmark was more along the lines of trading guys that became great, like Zach Gallen now is the favorite to win the Cy Young Award. This year in the National League. Zach Gallen of Arizona. And Arizona, actually, I don't know how they've done of late, but they were writing a pretty good story themselves.
They were leading their division.
Yeah, they were having a real good year behind Gallen. And, you're looking at a guy that, could win the Cy Young Award. And it's just like trading Christian Yelich, and he wins the MVP the ensuing year. And you're thinking, why do we always have to suffer through this? Do we ever make a move where we get somebody back that's so sensational that you could almost begin to justify losing the players of the caliber that we've traded away over the years? And that was a syndrome. And we used to have Mike Hill on the show. And you didn't buy anything that he was saying, huh, Mike Hill?
I liked him, and he
It
seemed
was
excited.
very positive. I mean, he was talking about Sixto Sanchez and Chaz Chisholm.
No,
My man Jose Urania.
He talked about Monte Harrison, and he talked about Louis Brinson a lot, and both were fucking.
Oh, Brinson. Is he even in baseball anymore? Louis Brinson? What happened to him?
I think he's somewhere, but I couldn't tell you where.
If ever there was a guy that just was dripping in confidence and looked to be as athletic as you could possibly be as a baseball player, it was Louis Brinson. And unfortunately, he may as well have been Mario Mendoza.
Sucked.
Yeah. That was a hard one to fathom, too, because, I mean, did he not look the part? He looked like he could be Darryl Strawberry.
He was bigger. He was big. He was strong. He was athletic. He had a good head on his shoulders. You know, like we enjoyed talking to him.
Real polished guy, yes.
Sucked. Like he was horrendous. Like they gave him time and time and time again, and he was abysmal. Look, Chisholm. The funny thing about Chisholm is before the stupid move to center, whenever he played, he was really good. They put him on the goddamn front of the video game. The problem is he's hurt every year. Literally hurt. Not only hurt every year, but he's hurt for like 2-3 months every year. And like this is now year 3 or 4 of it.
He wasn't doing all that much though before the injury.
No, well, I think the move to center fucked him.
Yes, that's like, possible.
Because in the past, when he had played, he actually played well. He just never plays. He misses like half of a year. Like, okay, you can't count, you can't measure if a guy's successful if he's not even on the goddamn field. Like,
well, leave it to Jim Sony. He's got the names of these guys that I can't remember. Dylan Cruz is a right-handed pitcher, oh no, he's an outfielder. Paul Skeens, the right-handed pitcher. That was the guy that was bringing in at like 100 for LSU. Tune in to the College Baseball World Series. It's worth a look, Lubie. It's kind of interesting. The ping of the bat is a little bit disturbing still. And I don't know, how much better would you have been with an aluminum bat? What if they had aluminum bats in the majors? I think you would have a lot of dead pitchers at this point. Not only from trying everything they could and exerting too much physicality to try and get the ball by anybody, but I mean, imagine a line drive through the middle off an aluminum bat. Forget about it. That would be ugly. All right, a bunch of other stuff going on. And I mentioned that. I did want to pay homage to Venus Williams. I don't know what she's doing out there. How old is she? 50?
But is this an old people league or is this
No. She's playing in these legitimate grass tournaments that are going on. That Camilla Giorgi, who she beat yesterday, is not the greatest player. Kind of Kornikova-esque, if you wanted to make a modern day comparison. Camilla Giorgi probably not even as good in terms of overall results as Anna Kournikova. Whether I don't know that she's equally good looking, but is more known for being attractive than she is for her play. But is not by any means a terrible player. She's all right. I mean, to be in the top 50 in women's tennis, you have to be very, very good. I think the men's tennis goes like over 100 deep in guys that you look at and you go, man, how is that guy only number 99 in the world? The guy's great. But this was a legitimate tournament. I believe might have been, was it in Germany? Not sure where they are right now because they're showing various locations on Tennis Channel. I'm watching some of this stuff now. Got the grass courts going, getting ready for Wimbledon. Takes place in July. Venus, you're wondering what would motivate her? Just love of the game, Lubie? Can you not applaud that and appreciate that? She's usually getting knocked out in the first round. That was her first win over a top 50 player, I think, in her last like 15 or 16 matches.
Jesus.
Yeah, which, I mean, she hasn't played that much. When was the last time you saw her? She was in a tournament a couple of weeks ago. Remember I told you I'm watching and I thought it was like a replay of some old event and it was Venus.
Didn't Serena retire? So
Serena's done, yeah. Serena's finished.
Serena was better and younger and she retired. Venus is worse and older and she's still, okay, yeah, she just must love getting her ass kicked. I don't know. It's I don't understand that. Like, why would, go play with your friends. Like, why would you do it on television?
She should be, playing mixed doubles in Wellington or something. No?
Yeah, exactly. Like, you can do it. It's fine.
I applaud her for going out there because it could only be embarrassing after, what's incurred and, losing all the time in the first round of these events that she's entering into, which she has to get some kind of wild card stature into the event because She's ranked like number 650 or something in the world. Might be even lower than that. But she just hasn't played, hasn't had any results, hasn't had any wins. She wins yesterday, though, so that was kind of interesting. And we'll play a second round match. This isn't like Andy Murray coming back, where he still has some shelf life. You're thinking Venus.
Yeah.
You called her a shot fighter, what, when we first met, like 12 years ago, before we went to that event at the Miami Open.
It was like 10 years ago, and she went on to like be a semifinalist in that exact event.
Yeah. She almost won a couple of Grand Slams. That was great. All right, NBA draft. What's going to be interesting about that, Lubie? I saw a good piece yesterday, actually earlier this morning, where they were going through the eyes of Jerry West when he lost out when he was with the Memphis Grizzlies, and he lost out on a chance to get LeBron James. They ended up with the number 2 pick. They had the number 1 pick protected. The number 2 pick was going to go to Detroit that year, which was unfortunate for Joe Dumars because Dumars spaced out, went Mike Tannenbaum, and took Darko Milicic with the number 2 pick. While remaining were 3 future Hall of Famers in Carmelo Anthony, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade. I think who was the 6th pick that year? That's always a good question.
It's just Kamen.
And what would you say about his career? How would you
It was
characterize it?
fine.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he ended up having an okay career, but he played a long time. He just wasn't, and the Heat wanted him. That's the funny thing is the Heat wanted Bosh and him because remember the Heat had Butler and Eddie Jones. Like the Heat had guards, and they had. Did they still have Zoe? I don't know. They had Brian Grant. Like they had some size. They wanted. They needed a big. Like Brian Grant was a power forward. I think they needed a legit big. So that's why they liked Bosh and they liked Kamen. They weren't even zeroing in on Wade. Like
it seemed like Pat Riley didn't care for him.
Like he was undersized because remember at that point he was running point.
Yes,
and he wasn't like I thought he was always underestimated as a facilitator. Most of his career he was a tremendous facilitator, but they never really focused on that part of his game. So they're like he's more of a 2, but he was like 6'3", 6'4", and a lot of people thought he was 6'2". So he was undersized to be a 2 guard. So they did that thing where they didn't know what he was going to be in the pros. So they
tweener, the old tweener.
He put a team on his goddamn back. Like Travis Diener was their second fucking best player, and he carried them to the Final Four. Like Kentucky was fucking loaded, and he single-handedly had a ridiculous triple-double, dominating Kentucky, getting to the Final Four that year. And they did the thing where they just disregarded that, and we're like, well, but he's 6'2", 180. What is he going to be? Well, he's probably the second.
Turned out pretty good. Yeah.
Shooting guard ever. So they liked Kamen. Kamen, actually, I remember wanting Bosh.
You wanted Chris Kamen, of course.
I didn't mind. I wasn't mad when they got Wade. It was like, okay, good, they got Wade. But like
Wade was an early Polyman spot. Polyman said on the air that, hey, watch out for this kid. Long before anybody else got on the Wade bandwagon. Well, watching his run with Marquette in the NCAA tournament, you had to take notice. Unfortunately, he there you go, Lubie. He literally fell into your lap. Your favorite situation in the draft, where a great player falls into your lap and there's no way to blow the pick.
Yeah. Honestly.
And you definitely would have wanted Dwayne Wade's career over Chris Bosh's, no?
Oh, good. Yeah.
I didn't know. I didn't really consider Chris Bosh to be Hall of Fame stature. Did you?
He was a really good guy on a horrendous team. And then he found a perfect role with the Heat and helped them go to 4 finals.
I'm not sure he found a perfect role. He seemed to be, for me, a little bit of a disappointment in terms of what he produced for the Miami Heat. Okay. Remember, there was all that kvetching. Well, they're using me wrong. I have to get the ball.
He was averaging 18 and 10 as a third dude. Like, I'd be very happy to have a third. I'd be very happy to have Bambi, our third guy, and average 18 and 10. We just didn't give Bosh enough credit because we wanted to have 3 dudes averaging 30, and that's just not mathematically.
No, so somebody had to be the main focus, and it seemed pretty obvious that was going to be LeBron James.
Now,
much like Steph Curry, you have to give him credit when he kind of stepped aside there
for KD
a little bit and capitulated to Kevin Durant being the number 1 guy. That is not an easy thing for a superstar to do. Dwayne Wade eventually figured that out, that he was going to have to go in that direction. Remember that big debate on Sports Talk? It was always crazy to me.
Yeah,
whose team is it? LeBron's team or Dwayne Wade's team? I'll take your calls here. Manny from Miramar, you're on the air.
Who cares?
Well, I think it's Dwayne's team, and I'll hang up and listen. That's a great point. Might be Dwayne's team. Imagine we spent a lot of time doing this stuff. That's insane.
is what you do with Carmelo. Because it's funny, at the time, we talked about this with Howard Beck, who wrote a book about it. At the time, I thought Carmelo, I could see Carmelo going up. Like LeBron, you had to take him because of just the possibilities.
Yes.
Carmelo was great. Like Carmelo with Syracuse was fucking great. And he did seem to
got them their only title with Jimmy B.
He was the one that it's like, what do you do with his career? Because he'll probably be a Hall of Famer because of his scoring, but Wade was clearly better. And I don't know if you say Bosch is better. So that's the curious one about that draft. Isn't Kamen. It's, did Bosch and Wade have better careers than Carmelo, who was the third pick, and most people thought should have been the second, and some thought he could have been the first at the time.
Well, there's no way that Darko should have been in that top 5.
Okay, so at the time, again, remember Dirk was a thing already. Like Dirk had already come out and was like, wow, look at this fucking tall dude that could shoot. So Darko.
You didn't think that came out of nowhere when Detroit picked Darko Milicic number 2?
Yeah, I watched a lot of the draft crap, and
I kind of remember that day, and I was like, wow.
People loved Darko. Like Darko going into that draft, he was this 7-foot dude that could ball handle and shoot. So they're like, oh,
Darko played a long time actually in the NBA.
He hung around. He just wasn't in the same.
It was nothing special.
And was better than Darko.
Chuck Nevitt hung around a long time too. I doubt you would be building a franchise around him. I mean, this was a franchise-changing pick. Detroit Pistons, they get lucky, right? As Memphis was down to the final 2, Cleveland and the Memphis Grizzlies. Jerry West, I mean, he couldn't have done a better job of expressing the devastation that he felt when that came up. It was kind of like losing the coin flip for Kareem, was it not? And let's not forget Andy's favorite player, and mine too, Neil Walk, hairiest back in the history of the NBA, was the number 2 pick behind Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, based on a coin flip. They didn't even have the lottery back then. Flipped a coin, and it turned out that Kareem went to Milwaukee, and here's Neil Walk going to the Phoenix Suns, dooming them forever until they finally got this configuration now, which it appears that they're just determined to screw up. Why would you? I mean, if you had something good going, why would you bring in Isaiah Thomas into the equation?
Well, James,
as any kind of advisor, what advice would you want from Isaiah Thomas except go away, Isaiah?
Fuck away.
You'd be giving the advice, yes.
I don't know. I don't know why he seems to do that. It's like the Carl, fucking what's his name with Carl Peterson, who was Kansas City Chiefs in like the 90s. But Ross was still believing him, and he hadn't had a real role anywhere in like 20-something years. But Ross was putting him above all the football people.
Yes.
Like, you guys
are completely shot finder who's just saying things randomly that are insane. And Ross is like, oh, okay, yeah, let's go get this guy. Worst tweener ever in the history of tweeners was Eric Kumaro, wasn't it? When Don Shula said, well, you know what? He can play linebacker. He could line up. He could put his fingers on the ground there. You're like, you may as well just start digging a grave for the franchise. You're taking Eric Kumaro in the first round. And who was the guy? I mean, they had, who was the linebacker on Ohio State that played next to Kumaro that turned out to have a really good career? Spielman, yeah.
Yeah.
Chris Spielman.
He was a Hall of Famer. He was fucking great.
Right there on the same team, Don. Come on.
That's what did Shula in. His drafting the last 20 years was abysmal.
Very unfortunate. I mean, like I said, had Don Shula had the foresight, he would have started a sperm bank with Joey, with Bosa, Don Bosa, and had the rights to his DNA. If the Dolphins had retained that, we'd be dynamite today. Probably the best defensive team in the league if we automatically had dibs on the Bosa brothers. That'd be great. All right, we're coming back with more. Lots more to talk about here on the show, as the Marlins are writing a big story right now in Major League Baseball. 42-31. Pretty incredible. Joey Votto came back last night for the Reds. That was kind of cool. You see any of that? Hits a home run in his second at bat. Ends up getting another key hit in the game. And the Reds have won 9 straight. They have that Dela Cruz guy at shortstop, too, who has been really lighting it up and exciting a lot of people. The Houston Astros are slumping, Lubie. Slumping. And the Mets got a win over the Astros last night. Scherzer going 8 innings, one of his best starts of the season here. So maybe they're finally starting to get their money's worth. But if you were, I guess it doesn't matter to Steve Cohen, the owner of the Mets, money. He has so much of it, it doesn't matter. But you think Bruce Sherman is kind of laughing a little bit?
We'll see. I mean,
Bruce Sherman, who literally, I mean, by comparison to Cohen, doesn't own the shirt on his back.
No, he's been impoverished. I mean, he's one of the poorest owners. Poor sounds so stupid. He's one of the least rich owners in professional sports.
Not exactly flush by comparison to some of these other guys.
Well, they're all at least a billionaire. He's not a billionaire.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What did he do to make this money? Whatever money he
I looked
has.
it up a while ago. I'll look it up again. We'll go to break.
What did he do? Did he work at Publix? What did he do? He was in charge of pricing at Publix, where it's always interesting too when you see the people that they really get off on it on not as much recently on the Let's Eat South Florida page with Mike Mayo, but the price comparisons are absurd, right? Like something that's $1.40 somewhere else is $6 at Publix.
Yes,
and we just go in there and get slaughtered like sheep. Incredible, right? I never think about going to other stores because the Publix are so convenient. In fact, they're at the point now where they have them on adjacent corners.
Yes.
How crazy is that? You talk about dominating the market.
Yes.
All right, we're coming back with more in a moment here on the show. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubitz on this fine Tuesday. Good to be with you. Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, 12 o'clock today, and we'll return in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 7:53. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in Style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. To make the right choice for your home, call Choice Mortgage today.
The world, I mean, if my point was ever going to be embellished and going to be proven true, the world has gotten me sugar nut.
Grab a bagel and a schmear, plus some Defo and Lubie. Welcome back to the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show. Good to be with you here on this Tuesday edition of the program. We will be with you until 9 o'clock. I'm getting some kind of bizarre signal there. Hopefully we're still with you, as we've been intermittently freezing out Lubie. And I don't know what it is, if it's you or it's me, but we'll have to get to the bottom of that at some point, and hopefully it'll straighten itself out. Good to be with you. Draymond Green, should he not be a member of the Miami Heat? How come the Heat fans aren't screaming, "We want Draymond, we want Draymond"? Would he possibly be somebody that could enhance the Miami Heat? You're thinking, what? Do they need toughness? Is he a shot fighter at this point? Draymond Green.
That's my problem. Is I don't know what he has left. Like, he can't hit the side of a barn on offense, so you don't worry about him. Because he used to be a great facilitator, because they would either defend his three-pointer so he could pass, or they play off and he could hit a three. He doesn't hit threes anymore. His shooting fucking sucks now.
All right.
So on offense, where he used to be this stretch or this shorter guy that can play the 2, 3, 4 and that times 5, he does nothing for you on offense now. Like, nothing. So I don't know. Like,
there's been zero talk of that. But you know how this goes in the NBA, where, oh, yeah, we're going to get Bradley Beal. That doesn't happen. Oh, yeah, Dame. We're already calling the guy Dame. We were on at Scoop Skolnick yesterday, and it's like we already know this guy on an intimate level. Damian Lillard of the Portland Trailblazers, who everybody seems to feel is going to get dumped at some point somewhere, but has expressed himself the desire to stay in Portland, which Lubie finds unfathomable, that he would want to stick around in a place where it appears to be that he would be destined to be a loser. The old Jacinto Vasquez thing, right? You hang around with losers, you'll be a loser too.
Look, I'm biased because I think that he'd have the best shot of any team to get him. So obviously that is a lot to do with it. But even then, even if he doesn't go to the Heat, I don't understand. Look, the super team hasn't automatically mean you're going to win. I totally get that. But why say somewhere where you're going to automatically lose? Like, that's my issue with Dame Lillard.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it seems like it's not fair to criticize a guy who wants to stick with a team that he's been with. You would like to see that. You've been calling it, in terms of loyalty, very noble on the part of Damian Lillard that he wants to stay there. What does it take to really turn a franchise around? It's interesting. Would you be better off? And we've seen this because we refuse to acknowledge it because everybody is so starstruck in this country, including all of the people that report on NBA basketball. The moving of Bradley Beal, yes, he has a big name, but would the Phoenix Suns, as we were saying earlier, not be better off getting 4 guys like the Heat have, with Vincent and Strus and Robinson and Caleb Martin, guys that are going to go out there and hustle for you, and also give you a little bit of depth on the roster as opposed to 3 high-profile scorers that may not get along all that well. We've seen that backfire so many times.
That's the other thing. Someone was it Julian was saying that Booker's already pissed. He already doesn't get along with KD as it is, and now they're bringing in Beal, who plays his exact position. It's like, what are you guys doing? Like, I don't understand that at all. Like, they don't even.
They're bringing in. Maybe Isaiah's going to play. Maybe that's why they're having him have some affiliation with the organization. I don't know. I mean, and you're thinking about it. It is incredible as a sports fan, and see, it's not my money, so I don't really care what they pay players. The idea that oh my God, this guy's making $40 million, you would assume that a certain level of competency would come along based on what salary you're being paid. And how many times do we talk about, hey, can you believe that? The guy's hitting $212 and he's making $40 million a year. I'm the biggest proponent of that. In the case of Draymond Green, I don't know. Is he a guy that you want to pay $30 million a year to? He was going to get to decline an offer. It's already on the table for $28 million. How absurd is that by comparison to, say, anybody that's, I don't know that you're in the elderly category like I am, but anybody that's been around for like 50 or 60 years and watching sports. And I don't know, maybe even you, Lubie, a salary of $30 million, a guy looks at it and he just says, you know what? I don't want that. Keep your fucking money. What do you think? I mean, it's crazy. Abdicate.
I don't know if that could happen. I feel like I read that.
Where's he going that he's going to do better?
He's not going anywhere. He wants to stay with the Warriors. I think I read somewhere that they're like reworking his contract. And again, the NBA is weird about this. The NFL lets you do this a lot more. The NBA doesn't automatically let you do that. But I think they're like going to do some kind of an extension where he can spread money out longer time, where he'll make more money, but it'll be more advantageous for the Warriors. Because again, remember, the going young thing didn't work for them. Kuminga, the Moody kid, and Wiseman were all fucking flaming disasters. And Jordan Poole, who looked like the next sensation, sucked this year. Like, he took a major step backward. So they want to keep this core. They want to keep Clay, Curry as the main dudes. So I think they want to go and get like another star. So I think they're trying to rework the money because no one's giving Green that. He's not the same guy. Like, no, he's not getting money near that.
I can't imagine. I mean, you have heard nothing about Draymond Green being in hot demand by other teams in the league. Seems like that would be the only place that he could go. All right, that makes some sense, Libby. That's what I was thinking, that there has to be something in the works there where he's getting a new contract from the Golden State Warriors. Maybe they add a couple of years and they make it look like he's getting paid less, so they kind of alleviate some of that pressure against the salary cap and the luxury tax that they're paying. But they're already paying Steph Curry $50 million and Klay Thompson $40 million a year. So not a lot of wiggle room there. But I mean, for a player to look at $30 million or $28 million and just say, nah, forget about it.
No, I don't think
unless he was in hot demand as a free agent, you would think would be an absurd move.
I don't think this is that. Like, I don't think he's doing the Tyler Johnson with the Heat and the Nets, and I don't think this is that. I think they're in cahoots because he's not the same dude. He's just not. Like, when you watch them, like, he arguably was their most important player at times. They'd make him their second best player.
Well, he was averaging those 12 point, 16 rebound, 11 assist, triple doubles. That was good, and playing defense.
He hasn't done that in like 3, 4, or 5 years. Like, hasn't been that, and he gets hurt a lot. And his size,
and he can be a liability from a mental standpoint, no doubt.
Yeah, and he gets in trouble.
Supposedly, he was the guy that that punch that he threw at Poole was the thing that threw Poole out of whack, and the team's chemistry into a very negative balance throughout the season. And yet, they still made it into a position where people thought they were going to win the NBA championship, which is pretty amazing. I don't think Klay Thompson's shooting is as consistent as it was.
No.
And the GM who put this whole thing together walked away now. And they are now in the hands of Dunleavy, right?
Yes,
became the general manager.
Which I don't even know what that means. I don't know. It feels like the sunset.
I think he's been in their front office for a while, has he not? Dunleavy, the son of Mike Dunleavy?
He has been with their organization for a long time.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm sort of discounting them. I don't know if they're going to be anything. I'm not sure that the Heat duplicate their run from last year. So what are we looking at? You're thinking that Phoenix probably compromised their chances by getting Bradley Beal of winning a championship. The Lakers are, still an interesting proposition just because, A, they're the Lakers, and B, they have LeBron and Anthony Davis. And as most people would say, it's cliche almost, right? Well, if those two guys could stay healthy, I tell you what. But they have a lot of free agents, too, including, Hiroshima is going to be a free agent this year. And a couple of others, right, that were instrumental. Isn't D'Angelo Russell also a free agent for the Lakers? They could end up with nobody.
That's where Paul was rumored to go. Remember, LeBron and Paul were the Banana Boys.
Oh, yeah.
So Paul was supposed to be taking over Russell's spot, but then I haven't heard that in the last week. I don't know what any of this stuff is. I'm curious what actually happens with all of this shit, because there's a lot of rumors that I don't know if it actually comes to fruition.
All right, this is all, and I'm glad we're on your favorite topic here, because I'm not as well versed in this stuff as you are, nor do I care as much about it, even though I'm bringing it up. But this is your prelude coverage to the NBA draft, which has interest where, Lubie? The first pick we know is a given. And it was interesting, too, when they were showing that little piece with Jerry West and lamenting, and, still to this day, thinking it was one of the most devastating things. He deemed it the most devastating thing that happened to him in his basketball career besides losses to the Celtics in the NBA Finals.
Well, because he's the one that turned the Lakers around, and he was able to woo Shaq from the Magic. Then he traded like Vlade for fucking Kobe, and Kobe went on to be Kobe. Like, so everything he did was like gold.
Magic,
so he wasn't used to losing. Like,
goes to Memphis and by a draw of a ping pong ball ends up being devastated. It was interesting to see. You were looking at the Cleveland Cavs owner, and Mike Tirico, a young Mike Tirico, is doing the Susie Colbert thing, where you have the sob story interview after the guy gets drafted, and she was there. Tirico was there for the lottery show, so he asked the Cleveland owner, who was a guy named Gund at the time. Said, well, how do you feel about getting the number one pick? And what do you think you're going to do with it? He says, I think we know who we're going to take. So that's true this year. We know who the number one pick is going to be. Does that extend Popovich for another 20 years as the head coach of the San Antonio Spurs? Do we have to laud Greg Popovich once again? Guy who made a hideous mistake at a crucial time. Should be in the same light as Buckner and Jackie Smith and all of the others. The shoe standing up before the wire in the Kentucky Derby. That's Bill Shoemaker. Right? And he goes ahead and he has Tim Duncan on the bench when the San Antonio Spurs are on defense there. Chris Bosh's only rebound, still incredible. Lubie pinned to the glass outside the arena. Going, let me back in. I can't believe he made the shot. No chance of that happening. Zero. And all because Popovich had to get cute, right? Man, let's go ahead. Well, every possession will change. Get the fuck out of here. You wouldn't want Tim Duncan on the floor for, for offense either? I mean, come on.
I was going to say, where's he a liability? Like, who are we putting in for him? You were going small.
You get the big fundamental, exactly.
Like he can hit he would hit more free throws than Ginobili, who bricked like 3 out of 5. Like,
you don't think Bosch would have had Tim Duncan's ass right in his crotch?
Yes. Bosch doesn't get that rebound.
Been boxed out of the boards there. He didn't get a single rebound in the series, this guy.
I don't think he was that bad.
It wasn't great. Anyway, so we know who the number 1 pick is going to be. It's going to be Wemby, as they say, and a lot of easier. Wembanyama, is that it? Scoot Henderson and my man Grady Dick is in the top 10 there. Grady Dick, white kid who can shoot, the proverbial 6'4" white guy who can shoot.
Yes.
Is he that good, Grady Dick, to be a top 10 pick in the NBA draft? He was with Kansas last year.
I don't know.
Grady Dick.
He actually had, I think, a decent tournament. I don't know much about him. I know Brandon Miller is interesting. I still am
Brandon Miller. What do we make of Brandon Miller? Could the goofball element be a part of this thing?
I'm curious about all the shit that happened at Bama and the fact that it just got swept under the rug.
But what doesn't happen in Alabama?
That's
the baseball coach is on the phone with some bookie that's placing bets at Monticello Racetrack. Right? Closed some defunct harness track he's at. Calling in bets on the college baseball playoffs, not even on regular season college baseball, Lubie. Did they even allow bets of any size on regular season college baseball? How much could you possibly bet that you need to have a coach calling you with inside information and he's deliberately rigging a game? How many bets could you get down on that?
Well, that's the thing is, Ken, the professor was saying that you can only bet so much on baseball.
Yeah.
So risk your career to not make that much money. Like, what is the friggin' point?
Yeah, Joe. No, I'm going to scratch the guy with the 100-mile-an-hour fastball. No, he'll never sniff the field. And that's going on there. We know about, I mean, how has there never been anything illicit discovered or uncovered about Nick Saban's football program when every other program in Alabama is a complete shambles in terms of integrity?
He has everyone under his thumb. I mean, it's not like he's not doing stuff. Jimbo Fisher has been very open about the kind of shit Saban's doing.
The basketball team was an embarrassment beyond the scope of anybody's wildest imagination. These are college kids. These are student athletes. They shouldn't be involved in shootings. There shouldn't be gray areas there. Now, if the guy, I mean, he wasn't charged, Brandon Miller, but then, the audacity of this coach to allow that nonsense to go on where they're frisking the guy as he comes out on the court, implying that they're shaking him down to see if he has a weapon on him. What has gone wrong with the world? What has happened to the youth of today, Libby? Am I just getting old?
You are, and they lost their fucking mind. I mean, I don't know. It's a weird freaking world. Social media has really battered and bruised kids. Like, bullying has been taken to like a weird ass level where it's literally like you would never attach the word depressed to children, but like 12-year-olds depressed, and it's like you're 12. Like, what the fuck are you depressed about? Like, 9.
I was depressed if I couldn't find a game of punchball.
Yeah, you'd be frustrated and bored.
Well, you'd still go out, do something by yourself at least, throw a ball against the wall.
Yeah. We always found stuff to do, and we were always able to keep ourselves occupied. And you weren't like sullen, but you have a preteens are like, it's a whole different world. It's just
this business too with guns. I mean.
Well, the access to guns
is insane.
It's the fact that kids have around the country are able to get to, like, no one I knew had a gun, and if they did, they didn't have that. Like, I never had a friend that was able to just go use his dad's gun. Like, I don't know where these kids are getting these goddamn guns, but it's very easy for them to get their hands on guns, which is so weird.
But would you say the behavior of the coach and the athletic director with regard to the murder of a woman was a little bit suspect? Alabama and the way that they handle this whole situation. Oh yeah, the kid's got to play. Now Brandon Miller may have been innocent of all of this. It's possible, but that was a disgrace. So every other program in Alabama seems to be completely just absolutely wrought.
Yeah,
with impropriety. Let's put it that way.
Yes,
and a lack of any kind of class or dignity. So how has Saban escaped all of this? Is he the one virtuous guy?
No,
in the
please.
Alabama athletic department, St. Nick? Nothing, huh? Does the NCAA even investigate stuff anymore? Are they even around? What do they do? Do they sniff into anybody's business? Remember how onerous they were as a presence during that whole University of Miami run? You knew that at some point they were going to come in there and drop the hammer. All right, Butch Davis, let's see those grades. And they go, wait a minute, they're not doing this at Ohio State. How come nothing like this ever happens at Texas? You think Texas has been anything but unscrupulous? We'll have to ask our friend Tom Herman what goes on at Texas. Maybe he was canned because he wouldn't go along with some of this nonsense that the boosters were recommending. Well, but now they can give the kid the money, right? So it really doesn't matter. What do you think the biggest haul will be by a college athlete in terms of name, image, and likeness money? I was surprised at some of the amounts of money that are being doled out to these guys. Not that they're not well deserving, and that the institutions that were essentially, going about a form of indentured servitude, were they not?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, what was that? Where, I don't want to use the S word, but and the trade off. Tony used to try to give us the business that, they have the opportunity to get an education, which at one time you would have considered to be a fair trade off, because the money wasn't as gargantuan as it is in college sports. But once that escalated to the levels that it's at today, how can you possibly look and say, you've got an opportunity here to become a scholar?
Well, and then with half the kids leaving early and not finishing their diplomas, and when you look at Jimbo Fisher, both at FSU and now at A&M, where he doesn't even give a shit about the kids keeping their grades up, like that was my problem with the Tonys of the world. And I love Segredo, but it was like, yeah, but that's not the thing. The school, the coaches don't let them focus on school.
No,
kids care about school. They call them pieces of shit. Like they're like, look, you're not here for that.
It's likely to be in some JUCO. Yeah, exactly. You're going to be at Riverside CC the rest of your life, kid.
Exactly.
Until you shape up, realize that you got to throw those books away. That'll be that. Anyway, it is amazing how certain programs have escaped scrutiny all of these years from the powers that be. But I don't know, what power does the NCAA have any power anymore over any aspect of college athletics?
No. The NCAA, you don't hear them involved in anything.
No.
Like, I don't know what
Do they still have a head of the NCAA? Is he still raking in like $20 million a year?
I think.
In a Jay Monahan type of role.
Exactly.
Where he's only there for the final payoff when he finally sells out the souls of everything that he's doing. Aren't they? I mean, they're kind of like the World Boxing Council, the NCAA. They've become at that level of farce as an organization. But still, you're wondering what would be the biggest payoff. I mean, if the Cavender twins were worth what? Hundreds of thousands of dollars? Or did they get $1 million to come to the University of Miami to be, sort of also rans on the basketball team? It's not like they had no ability, but, essentially you're there for their social media presence. What were they getting, $1 million from the University of Miami, from the booster there, Chico Ruiz?
Supposedly they were getting in the millions. Supposedly.
Wow. So what's a top quarterback worth? Coming into a situation where he's going to turn around the fortunes of the Texas Longhorns. What do you have to find for that guy?
I mean, you were between Ohio State and Texas, got like over $4 million. Supposedly Arch Manning isn't really trying to get a lot of NIL yet, but when he can, when he's willing to, he's gonna make whatever the fuck he wants. I mean,
are these guys endorsing anything? Are they doing live spots, at 25 a pop?
They'll do commercials and shit. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Because I haven't seen too many endorsements really by these college athletes. You don't see them in a lot of national ad campaigns, do you?
No. Bryce Young, I think, was in a Dr. Pepper.
Okay.
National. I think you saw, but that's the problem. Is like college athletes don't. It's for the most part a regional sport. Like you don't see it. College athletics is not national. Like
no,
guys aren't there. It's not like back in the day where guys would be there for 4 years. Like they don't play for the first year or two. Then when they finally play, they play 1 year and then they leave. Like it's to go national. It's tough. There's not a lot of guys that are known nationally.
All right. Well, explain this to me. I guess the quarterback is, there again at FSU. How are they favored over Clemson to win the ACC championship?
Well, their quarterback is, I guess
that kid was great, man, last year. He was great.
He played played in spurts at the end of the year. So he's a young dude. They've had a lot of turnover. And Clemson's been sort of inconsistent by their standards, whereas FSU, their quarterback is like in his 5th year. He's a Heisman candidate going into the season, and they return like 90% of their roster. Like we're most schools that are good, there's a lot of roster turnover, so it takes time to get back. I guess FSU's NIL is killing it because they were able to return like a lot of guys that were supposed to leave all stayed. And that's rare. Like you don't get guys to stay, spurning the NFL to stay. So FSU isn't going through a lot of turnover where Clemson is. Clemson has a lot of turnover. So that's why FSU people think will have a really strong year. We'll see. I mean, they won 10 games last year. It's Norvell's 4th season.
They're under 2-1 to win the ACC. And I think Clemson was 2-1. I believe Miami. Now, what about all these reports that the University of Miami football team was going to be great this year, that Mario Cristobal had a handle on this, that he just needed to get rid of the scrubs that were there before he got there, and he was going to have monster recruiting years season after season, and the Hurricanes were ready to go ahead and threaten to get back into the picture of even a national championship. They're like 25-1 to win the ACC.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about the Kings. I don't know what you're hearing. I mean, people are yes, a lot of questions already. It's literally only year 2 for Cristobal, and he's already supposedly on a hot seat, which I find hard to believe. He's going to be here at least 3 years, if not 4 years, for the money they gave him. But yeah, there's a lot of questions about UM. I don't know about people having confidence in them. I mean, Van Dyke went from a Heisman candidate last year to a guy that almost transferred to Alabama this offseason. Like
yes.
They had, and he was horrendous. Like he was bad last year. Like he, even in spite of the injuries, when he did play and was healthy, he looked like shit. So I don't know.
It was hard to imagine how he could have regressed that badly under Mario Cristobal. Yeah, I mean, especially since you're thinking you're bringing in Cristobal as a savior. How could you take a Heisman Trophy candidate and turn him into a bust? Seems impossible. Now, yes, I mean, Cristobal can't account for everything. I mean, he's coaching a guy. The kid could have gone into the tank mentally or just lost it, or his confidence shattered for whatever reason. Maybe he had a girlfriend that was giving him problems. Who the hell knows? He's a kid. But that being said, you rarely, would see something like that, where you had a guy that had all of this talent, supposedly inherent ability, and you're bringing a head coach who's known for these explosive offensive players that he had at Oregon, and your quarterback regresses to the point where you don't even want to see him out there. Or even when the backup was having a bad game, you still didn't want to see Van Dyke last year. But 25-1, I thought that was pretty generous. Maybe you must be talking to different people than I am, or maybe I'm overly influenced by the great Tony Segreto, who'll be with us tomorrow. He's been extolling the virtues of the University of Miami. Is that another, just example of South Florida being the city of false hope when it comes to our pro teams? Which hasn't been the case this year. I mean, you would have to say it's been euphoria compared to what we've had in seasons past.
And I understand we didn't actually close any of the titles, but from where we were literally like 2 years ago, where every team sucked. Like, even remember the Heat, the year after they went to the finals, lost in the first round, and gentlemen, did they get swept by the Bucks? It might have been officially swept by the Bucks. Like, the Heat had gotten swept. The Dolphins were still with Flores, so that was a fucking disaster. The Marlins were useless. The Panthers were selling us false hope again. Like, literally 2 or 3 years ago, it was a goddamn disaster. And the fact that every team so far, outside of the Canes football team, which I still don't know what to do with them, is successful or at least trending upward. Like, again, the Marlins, it's early, fine. But to be 11 games over 500 and winning 6 in a row, and the pitching strong and the bullpen strong, and they're getting timely hitting. I mean,
and some power hitting. I mean, you couldn't fathom this team having a 40-plus home run hitter, but Soler certainly is on track for that.
Yep.
And he's done it before, so he has some demonstrated ability in that category. You know what? The entertainment quotient, too. Have you noticed this last couple of nights, Lubie? I mean, it was great. We didn't realize, until it's gone, right? That's when it really hits you, how wild it was to have this level of entertainment in front of us from a sporting interest with the Panthers and the Heat virtually every other night for a couple of months at that dramatic stage of the season where, there was a possibility that either or both teams could win a championship. It is. I mean, it's a shame that people never acknowledge. We say this all the time. Teams that finish second, you're almost better off being out of the money than finishing second because usually you'll have some disparaging stuff written about you, or that would be how you were remembered. Oh my God, can you believe these guys? They choked. But you don't get that kind of scrutiny if you're a team that never made the playoffs to begin with. Only if you finish second. But for finishing second, which we didn't quite make that in the college basketball ranks, both losing in the semifinals, but both getting there, FAU and the University of Miami, tremendous. And then I'm sort of going through a little bit of sports withdrawal, Lubie, even with all the choices that are on TV virtually every night. I'm a veritable Jim Sarney flipping around there. In fact, Sarney and I sometimes are on the same events. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, why am I watching this obscure event? Women's senior bowling from Denver, Colorado. The Firestone Tournament of Champions. Where was that? That was
Ohio.
Akron, Ohio. Yeah, Akron, Ohio. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Firestone Tournament of Champions was big, man. I used to get excited about that. I got my hair like kind of stood up on my back when the Pro Bowlers Tour would come on with Chris Schenkel and Nelson Burton Jr. Schenkel was perfect for that too. I mean, he was so dry when he was doing this stuff. Well, he'll go cross lane for the 10-pin, and you're thinking, what else is he going to do? Right? That still amazes me. That commentary, cross lane for the 10-pin, as if he was going to line one down the gutter as a pro bowler. Here's Don Carter. He's going to line one down the gutter there. See if it could just hang on. It's wobbling. It's waffling. Not much you could do in bowling commentary, is there? Oh, look at that. A 2-4-5-8. He's going to have to, well, you see what he's got to do? He's got to put the ball right here, Joe. Might have to slow it down a little bit because the oil in these lanes is really causing havoc for these bowlers. I'll tell you what, 29 is not hitting like 30, and 30 is not hitting like 29. Now you got another hour and a half to go on the telecast, and you've run out of everything that you could possibly say about the sport. I watched this. I mean, speaking of TV viewing, Libby, and especially after this, fainting incident the other day, is it time for me? I don't want to do it. I mean, this is one of those things where it's the last thing that you want to do. Almost like voting for Trump, right? The last thing you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's take up pickleball.
Oh God, I can't wait to see you.
No, it's being televised pro pickleball.
It's not just an open look. Young people across the country are playing pickleball. I don't understand it. Why wouldn't you just play tennis? But I guess people are.
This looks like the dumbest fucking game I've ever seen. It really does.
If you're older, fine. But if you're young and healthy, why would you play? Why not play tennis? Like, are you lazy? Is it that people are lazy? Like, I don't get.
Don't you want to do a little bit of running with this thing?
Like the box is as big as my freaking.
Maybe I don't understand all of the rules, okay? But I mean, all four guys are standing within 2 feet of the net.
Yes.
And they're just basically like doing one of those things like in the old Smith Barney commercial with the ping pong. You can almost hear the announcer saying, "I'll say, old chap," right? As the ball is bouncing very slowly back and forth. And it does make a loud click. I mean, the one thing about the game, the noise of the game, the sound of the game is sort of, a little bit appealing, is it not? The clack on the racket and the click off the ball off the ground. But then you realize that the ball doesn't bounce, and you may as well just break out a bocce ball and start playing. But the way they just kind of, softly hit the ball over the net while all four guys are standing at the net. And then at the last second, after about 20 exchanges of just ba-doop, 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 all of a sudden the guy fires one at the guy that's at the net. And then they go back and forth for a couple of seconds, and then that's it. Somebody gets hit in the face. I mean, it's dreadful. How is this? I mean, what is the viewership on professional pickleball? What would you think?
Fine, okay. You want?
I think the Live Tour was more popular than that.
People watch it. Like, if you want to play it, okay. It's like when they try to tell us people watching video games was becoming popular, and that's a load of garbage. If you notice, ESPN has gotten very far away from that, and that is not a thing. No one gives a shit watching.
Remember that? You used to have, big fat kids just sitting there making like $300,000 for winning a video game tournament.
Like, I think it still exists. Like, kids like it, but it didn't grow and support. It went the opposite way. Like,
my grandkids would be great at that, though. They're always on the phone.
My nephews are the same way too. Like, what I don't get is why would I watch people play? If you want to play pickleball, fine. Why are people watching it? There's nothing happening. They're just standing there.
Phenomenon I don't understand. I guess, see, I used to like this when the old codgers on the beach would play, paddleball.
Yeah, paddleball.
You ever seen that where they had like a small pickleball like court, but you didn't play it with a plastic ball. You played it with kind of a spongy, sort of softball sized rubber
Yeah.
ball. And, they would play paddleball. And then, of course, if you're really old school, I don't know if you ever saw much of this. I mean, it was big with the Italians. And I don't know that the Jews were so much into it, but they might have been, where they played like a hardcore game of handball in New York. Handball was big. It was a big game. People engaged in it. They would have these, gatherings on Sundays, and you would have to wait like hours to get out there on the court and play with your doubles team. And then you had the little black glove, and the ball was hard as a rock. And you would see some really great players playing handball. Then racquetball got popular. But what's happened with that? How come we're not seeing? I mean, that is a much more engaging and difficult game, and more strenuous game than pickleball, I think, could ever be. Lubie, racquetball, you don't see any of that anymore.
My dad literally his whole life played racquetball, and because of his back, now he's playing pickleball. But again, he's in his 60s and he has back issues. So I get him. He, like you, he played sports.
Yes, if you're a cripple. Yeah, exactly.
He wants to be competitive. He wants something. Good for him. He found it and he enjoys it. I just don't get younger people, and I don't get watching. Like, it's not like he's on, as much as he plays, he doesn't watch it. He's not at home watching.
But I used to watch bowling on TV, as I was just saying. I mean, I couldn't wait for 3:30 Saturday afternoons after being in a bowling league in the morning.
See, I liked bowling, and I didn't watch a lot of it, but I could watch bowling. To me, that's different. I don't know. There's something about
You're thinking, how can anybody watch bowling? When you're watching somebody else bowl on television,
I used to love it.
Shouldn't you consider a cyanide cap at that point? I would recommend this kind of violent end to your life, or and we certainly are not advocates for that sort of behavior. But yeah, I mean, don't you realize that you have no life if you're watching bowling on TV? Now it was a popular sport then, and I loved bowling. I did as a kid.
Yeah, now, but I'm saying back, even when I was growing up, they had bowling on like network television, and people would. I watched it. I loved it.
Oh, it was a big time show, no question. Preceding Wide World of Sports, which I think, what, did that come on at 5, Wide World of Sports, or was Wide World of Sports on before it? The Pro Bowlers Tour, Chris Schenkel, Nelson Burton Jr. Today, we're in another buttfuck town in the middle of nowhere. Ernie Schlegel was my favorite bowler. Ernie Schlegel, he used to wear the American flag leather pants. He was a bit of a character. And how about this? I mean, they actually smoked while they were competing. They were smoking cigarettes.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, the guy would be having a beer and a cigarette, and he's like on TV competing as a pro athlete, then followed by like a world championship fight. Today, Wilfredo Benitez defends his title against Sugar Ray Leonard. You're thinking, what, the prelude to that? The preview is Five Guys Bowling. Tita Semes, another one of my favorites. Tita Semes. Carmen Salvino was great. How about Billy Whaley, who had the weird thing with the ball?
Whaley. They were talking in the chat about Whaley. That's the thing, like, there was only
no, that was Ray Bluth had the weird.
There's only so much to watch, so I could see again, and I still liked bowling. But now with all that's out there to watch pickleball, I don't know. I will never understand people watching pickleball.
I could see it for this reason. I watched it because I was trying to figure out what it is about the game that people find so fascinating, and whether or not I would ever really consider, okay, maybe it's time, Defo.
Yes, it probably is close to time for you. I'm not going to lie. I don't know if you'll ever set your pride aside to do it. I think Harvey's started playing pickleball.
Yeah, he would be good at that sort of thing. I mean, from a reflex standpoint, it could be good, but that bullshit that they do at the net is crazy. It's like watching Andrea Jaeger back in the day. Remember when she brought the moon ball into women's tennis? And at that time, we weren't embracing women's tennis to the extent that we do now, where as I said, of all the pro sports that women play, women's pro tennis is the one that most closely approximates what you get from the men.
Yes.
In terms of the way the game is played and the efficiency that it's played at and the power level that it's played at. You don't see this in too many other sports. I don't know that you can compare, Tony likes to do this, women's softball with baseball.
This is different.
They're kind of two different games, although, the elements are similar, but two completely different games in the way that they're executed. But, I mean, even that being said, I mean, if you want to make that qualification, the women have come a long way. I mean, towards approximating what you would get in a men's game in terms of, especially their fielding. I mean, some of the defensive plays that you see in women's college softball, you have to say, wow, this has come a long way. I'm not sure. Is it the same in college basketball? Women's college basketball is what compared to what it was years ago? That much better?
Like that different to me.
Maybe I think you have more good players than you used to.
Maybe. I don't know. I am. It's very hard for me to get into it. I used to watch it a little bit in the 90s. Now I struggle to watch women's basketball. Pretty rough.
When do you throw in a towel, though, Lubie?
I don't know.
But I was watching this to see if there was something I was missing about the game. Like, this would be a lot of fun because of what? And it's sort of like, a lame form of tennis meets dodgeball.
Yes.
Is what it turns into. And now, has your dad been hit in the face with one of these bullets at the net?
I don't think so.
No?
No.
Because if you don't get that racket up in a hurry, man, keep your hands up, kid. You got to be like King Arthur Abraham and just hold your gloves in front of your face and never throw a punch. I hope that the ball bounces off the racket there as it's about to hit you in the head. I just don't get those exchanges where they're standing right in front of the guy and they have every opportunity to just like smash the ball somewhere. But they just kind of dink it back and forth for like 20 exchanges. Seems odd, doesn't it?
Yeah, I don't get it. I'm not going to lie. I don't get it's the fastest growing sport. They keep saying that. Good for them.
Parks are packed. I drove by the park the other day. I always take a glance over there at the pickleball courts that they put in. They had to put in like 20 new ones at Pompano Municipal Park. And they're jammed the whole time. There'll be no one on the tennis courts. And the pickleball courts are absolutely jammed. Now, it's not like the tennis courts aren't popular, but the game is not played as much in the afternoon as you would see with pickleball. Do you have to actually go at oddball times to get a court?
I guess. I don't get it. I'm not going to lie to you. It looks like lazy people's tennis. And I think that's what it is people don't want to run, but they want to do something.
It's ping pong without the table, no?
It looks like shitty ping pong. I like ping pong. I don't get pickleball.
Who came up with this shit?
I don't know.
On TV, though, it was being aired on Tennis Channel, a professional pickleball league that there is. And isn't that the thing that all of these athletes got involved in? Tom Brady bought a franchise. Is that league? I don't know. Pickleball seems to be in a somewhat chaotic state from a professional level. Are there stars in pickleball? Are there guys? I mean, Jim Sarney was pointing out some local person. I think a woman is like the number one pickleball player. And how come she's not getting more attention? Because the game sucks. Yeah.
I don't care.
That's why. Go play it, right? I mean, has that replaced shuffleboard in most of these like 5-star senior residences?
It looks like a senior game. It looks like when you're like in your 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
And you want to be active. That's my problem. Is like 30-year-olds playing. It's like
from Century Village.
Yeah, exactly.
Right here in Pembroke Pines. It's the National Senior Pickleball Championship. And today, Irving Schwartz is going to go out there. Irving's undefeated now in singles and doubles.
And Saul Bernstein.
Yeah. The B'nai B'rith is backing today's event. Never mind. I don't think we'll see a lot of old Jewish people at Century Village playing.
Maybe.
Playing pickleball.
I know.
Is there a demand in front of the Homeowners Association to put in some courts? Take out the shuffleboard? They have tennis courts there. My mother was always telling me, why don't you come here and play tennis? It's because there's like a chalk outline of the last guy that played tennis on the court. Zakovich, I think was his name. Irving. All right, we're coming back with more in a moment here on the show. We really got led astray there with this pickleball thing. But I did watch some on TV, and I watched to see what was I missing about the game. And I don't know that I'm ready to embrace this game. The series of fainting spells probably makes me think it's not advisable to go play tennis in the heat anymore. But I think, I don't know, can you guys tell? Is there a loss of consciousness that I've incurred over the last couple of days? What do you think? I thought yesterday's show was a little sloppy, Lubie, and I'm not sure we have any focus today.
No, we have no focus, but I don't know if that's bad.
We've explored a lot of different, parts of the sports landscape today, including whether Kim Ng should be the executive of the year.
Like Andy's literally saying his buddy who plays tennis still would rather play pickleball. That I don't get. Like
this is what's happening. Yeah.
If you can play tennis, if you physically can play tennis,
get out there and
why
run.
would you play tennis?
Pickleball. What a schmanky game, huh? I mean, I don't know. I don't understand the phenomenon. I suppose if I played it and I had a good time doing it, maybe that would be the way to make the transition. Our buddy DeFoss, Colin Forster, is all over this thing. And he was a big tennis advocate for a long time.
Yeah,
now this is all he talks about is pickleball.
Look, when you get older and can't do things, that I get. Again, my issue is those that can still play these other sports. Why will you then transition to this? I don't know what it is. Like what I've seen of it, it looks really.
Brian Schwartz, our good friend, put it the right way. It's like crossing over to the dark side.
Exactly, I know. No way.
You're like Kevin Sullivan going to Japan and coming back with a bunch of silly string.
Green mist or some shit.
Yes. The green mist. And you're thinking, that's not a green mist, Kevin. That's nothing that came from some, ancient Asian formula. It's a fucking can of silly string. Who are you fooling here? Yet we bought it. That'd be the thing Trump should do is get a piece of the WWE. Isn't he close with McMahon? Yeah.
Well, McMahon just sold it.
Linda McMahon one of his cabinet members?
Yes, she was. But I think McMahon just sold it. I think that was the whole thing. McMahon sold it to like MMA people, UFC or something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. So he's out?
Yeah, I think so.
Don't they need him as a character in the overall drama that they present? McMahon!
I love Sarni.
Maybe McMahon will be playing pickleball. All right, we'll come back in a moment and take your rent out the door here on the Defo Show. Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, 12 o'clock today. Mayo is on an eating spree that I think is unparalleled. I've never seen anything like that. And he says he ate lightly at that Deck and Spice place.
He ate lightly for him compared to these other places. Again,
yeah, I mean, he didn't slobber down two trays.
They brought out small bites. It wasn't like Talia's where they were bringing out these heavy dishes. They brought out their lunch thing, which is a bunch of small bites. So you can only eat so much. But he still ate. Like, he ate more than you and I.
Seemed like it, didn't it? He was busy.
100% he did. I'm not judging him.
He was talking to Shaker. He had a mouthful of shrimp. I mean, and some of that other fine stuff they had. And then goes and eats like a full meal somewhere else and then had dinner that night.
Yes.
And he's willing to travel too, right? I mean, all of a sudden he's getting like an ice cream cone in Pembroke Pines, even though he was dining out on the beach. I wouldn't schlep all the way over there. They got plenty of ice cream over here. What are you talking about? Just go by Lauderdale by the Sea. I think there's like an ice cream store like every other store. Expensive chocolates. Are you inclined to buy expensive chocolates at some, boutique candy shop?
Lindor or Lindt, like the most expensive I get. Godiva.
Fudge? What about fudge?
I'm not a
fudge. I don't know that my body can handle fudge anymore. I don't mean it that way. But, I'm talking about chocolate fudge that you eat. Do you like the lighter stuff or the dark chocolate? Dark chocolate?
As I've gotten older, I'm more open to dark chocolate, but I like milk chocolate.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, anyway, we'll see what Mayo comes up with today because he was listing off the stuff. It took like 50 minutes for him to get to the point where he had finally described his last meal of the last 2 days, right? It was, what did you have? He went in Thai Spice and another place. And where else did he go? Oh, his ex-wife cooked for him?
He was all over the place.
Pretty incredible, man.
This guy.
Yeah, amazing. All right. We'll find out what adventures he's on. 12 o'clock today, Mike Mayo's Lunchbox. All right, coming back with more in a moment. Now that. It's 8:41.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously. Friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Hear me. I am your new president. From this day on, the official language of San Marcos will be Swedish. Silence! In addition to that, all citizens will be required to change their underwear every half hour. Underwear will be worn on the outside so we can check. Furthermore, all children under 16 years old are now 16 years old.
What's the Spanish word for straitjacket?
Power has driven him mad.
Welcome back to the Defo Show.
All right, going to finish off taking a look at some odds and ends here, Lubie. Don't you think it's about time that we degenerated a little bit here on the program? All right, and we'll conduct this in the form of a, let's say, what would it be? A quiz show where you have to decide, at what point you're going to stop, Lubie.
Okay.
And actually, take the price that's available to you because you think it's a fair one, or you think that it's worth risking your $100 on a futures bet compared to taking the obvious favorite and bailing out. So the Braves are favored to win the World Series.
Okay.
But you're getting plus 425. Do you see the Braves winning the World Series? Would you go ahead and lay 100 out to win $425?
Like who's
on the Atlanta Braves?
Who else is even a contender other than them? Like I don't even know.
Okay, the Rays, which I don't think they're going to sustain this through the World Series.
The Rays, they always falter.
Yes,
they always falter.
Somehow, at the moment of truth, it's the same thing like we saw with the Panthers and the Heat.
Yeah,
more so the Heat, because I think you can make a little bit of an excuse for the Panthers with the injuries that they sustained. Yeah. I mean, and these were, top important players. It wasn't like some club that you never heard.
Chuck had a broken sternum. Like they just won a game. They were getting back into the series, and he had a broken sternum for like 3 games.
Incredible. Yes. No good. Rays, though, I don't see they're 500 plus 500. So you get 5 to 1.
Yeah.
Dodgers, you get 6 to 1. Are the Dodgers worth that kind of
third in the division? What's going on with the Dodgers?
They're third. Don't know. Maybe. I saw Urias getting shelled the other day. Is he not the same guy that he was? I think Kershaw's having a good year, though. Clayton Kershaw, is he not? Pretty sure he is. Astros 8 to 1 on the Astros. Stros are slumping right now. You tell me when to stop, okay?
I would take I know they lost Verlander.
Give you a few more here. Rangers 11 to 1. Yankees 13 to 1.
Yankees are weird to me. The Yankees are one where it's like you do have Garrett Cole. Maybe he can get hot, and they
don't look that good to me. I mean, not sure. I mean, Aaron Judge is out of the lineup, and all of the articles in the New York Post about it are like lineup is a shambles, a complete farce without Aaron Judge in there. That he essentially is the New York Yankees at this point. Blue Jays, who just got clobbered last night. I mean, they didn't look too impressive. Would you take 18 to 1 on the Blue Jays to win a World Series? Do I need to go any further? Your Marlins are 80 to 1.
Yeah. I would say
a little far-fetched.
I would be chalky there. Like the Braves just have everything. And remember, the Braves contended without Acuna Jr. So now you have him back too, and he's hitting well, and he hasn't done any crazy shit. And he's like being a leader with that rotation that's fully healthy. The Braves are good. Look, the Marlins are playing the way they're playing, and they're still 5 back. Like that's fucking annoying.
That is incredible. 4.5 back of the Braves as of today, in spite of winning 6 in a row.
Yeah,
they've lost ground.
They're not gaining any ground.
How is that possible? The Braves have won 8 during the same span as the Marlins have won 6. How did they lose ground? They were like 3.5 back when they were losing a couple of weeks ago.
The Braves are just a machine at this fucking point.
Pretty incredible. The any teams of any interest? The Padres, who supposedly were loaded up, 20 to 1.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with them.
Mets, you're getting 30 to 1. Can the Mets figure out what the hell is wrong with them and win a World Series with this lineup they have? I would have to say no way, Jose. No. What were the Mets odds? I mean, before the season, they had to be somewhere under 10-1, no? To win the World Series with the way that everybody was lauding this roster and talking about how Steve Cohn. They were, having meetings in Major League Baseball to try and figure out a way to get this guy to be stopped from spending money. Steve Cohn, the owner of the Mets. Remember, there was this big conversation. Well, you know what? We got to do something about this. And what are they doing about it now? I mean, I guess if anything, the argument would be, or the conversation would be, geez, if these stiffs on the Mets could be making this money, you're going to really have to pay us.
Yes.
We're on a good team.
Yes.
All right, so that's that. So you didn't get past the favorite. Braves to win the World Series plus 425.
Damn baseball. There's a lot of ant.
Yeah, I don't see the Rays. I don't know that I see the Dodgers, Astros, maybe. But the Astros last year they had Verlander as their number one, and he was good.
The problem for the Astros is they haven't been able to retain their players. They lost Correa. They lost.
Yep, Correa gone.
And at some point, that does catch up with you. Like you see, the
Rangers score a lot of runs. The Rangers, 11-1. Is that worth a shot? Win a World Series? It would be improbable.
Wait, is that? Didn't they sign? I don't know anyone on the Rangers anymore. Okay.
Rangers are a scoring machine. I think they have the highest scoring offense in baseball. I might be wrong about that. It's not like you're talking to the Elias Sports Bureau here. Let's transition here. And this is interesting how much, no wonder everybody's going broke. Already pushing heavily the opening weekend of the National Football League, which isn't until September 7th, Lubie. And you have a zillion inches of column space dedicated to odds of the opening week. So naturally, I latched onto this. Would you take a plus 120 money line on the Dolphins to beat the Los Angeles Chargers on the road, week number 1? Do we think the Dolphins have the goods to do this? I kept drawing that question mark yesterday, and it's interesting that anybody that you talk to would do the same thing, question mark, and the Mysterians is what the Miami Dolphins are at this point. All based on the fact that we have no idea. Has anybody seen Tua throw a football? We've seen him at some games. He was eating a popcorn.
We've seen him in these OTA things. I don't know.
OTAs, he's, schmoozing with the guy. Seems to get along with everybody really, really well. Everybody likes the kid. Very likable guy. Guy that you could root for. You're hoping it works out. But do you see Tua getting smashed into oblivion like the first week? And that's it. All of a sudden, there's an eruption again of the sentiment that I think he should retire.
I don't know what the retire stuff.
That's a giant question mark, is it not?
I don't know. I'd like to see. I still would have liked to see them do more on the offensive line. Like that's my only issue with them. I mean, that's why
you have like two gaping holes on the right side of the offensive line, and I don't know how is the center position that of quality.
They're right.
Your left tackle is, a guy that plays half of the games, with one leg or whatever it is.
The center strong, right guard is strong, left tackle strong, but he only plays about half of the games. Your left guard sucks. Your right tackle sucks. And that's the thing. It's not that they're average. If they're average, okay, you don't need 5 great. You just need at least 2 to 3 really good to great and 2 average. The problem is they're not.
When Chris Greer's in the meeting rooms there and he has like everybody up there like they were having an FBI investigation and they got a picture of the right guard and right tackle, does he just refuse to acknowledge that there needs to be an upgrade there as he's drafting running backs? And, wouldn't you have taken a shot, any kind of a shot that you could find an offensive lineman in the, what was that, the 3rd round that they drafted this running back? 3rd round, when they just signed a couple of running backs and we're in the conversation there supposedly to get Dalvin Cook, which is that a dead issue altogether at this stage, Libby? Dalvin Cook finished? No chance of coming to the Miami Dolphins?
He wants the money. He wants a real contract.
Yeah, all right. So they're not inclined to go ahead and administer that at this point in a running back. Need 2 offensive linemen. If you were 2 offensive linemen away from being what you think is a championship caliber team, would you not, sacrifice something, almost anything, to try and get them? Or at least, pour over everything, right? Well, where else could you find a right tackle and a right guard? Canadian Football League?
That's the thing.
USFL?
People are like, well, who would you want them to get? I'm like, I don't know now, but I would rather earlier in the offseason have focused on it. Like they focused on all these other things except for the offensive line, which is their biggest goddamn issue. Like that's the thing is it's not even you have 3 great guys. No, you have Connor Williams has an injury history. Robert Hunt has an injury history. Terran Armstead is not even injury history. It's a definitive.
He's an injury. Yes.
Injured. Like, okay.
He's at the very top of every injury report as questionable.
I don't get. I just look. I'm flashy weapons are great. Jalen Ramsey is going to make Jalen Ramsey with Howard. I think will make both better. They're going to get the battered and bruised defensive backs back. Like you lost Trill Williams, you lost Brandon Jones, and both are playing really well before they got hurt. So I think their defense is going to be really strong. And Fangio, I think, is the exact guy you need. Like Boyer sucked. It was really Flores was really good as a defensive mind, and Boyer was really just getting credit for Flores. You lost Flores, and Boyer had no idea what he was doing. I think their defense is going to be really good, and I'm excited for it. I think the offense has.
What happened to Xavier Howard last year?
He was hurt. Like, that's the thing. Okay. People don't like.
He could have been J.B. Brown.
He was hurt the entire year, but they were already down 3 goddamn defensive backs, so he had to play. So he should be healthy. They should have depth. And now they should go from being like with less people to having depth in the defensive backfield. My problem is on offense. Like they have a ton of talent, but you have to keep Tua upright. And the only way you can do that is with a good offensive line. And they didn't, that's the thing they haven't addressed at all. They haven't brought in any offensive linemen of any real value this offseason. And that was their biggest issue was the offensive line.
You would have thought that would have been number one priority. And at least to the point of taking a shot that they might find somebody, some guy that had not been regarded as highly and was available that they could turn into a really good player. Is that the other thing that's missing? Who is the offensive line coach of the Miami Dolphins?
I think they changed it again. Every year they change the goddamn offensive line coach.
I mean, that would be, perhaps another solution that you have somebody on the roster that you can coach up to being, somebody that was functional at the position. Well, we'll see. But the question was, Lubie, would you, go after a 120 and try to win 120 by laying out 100 on the Miami Dolphins money line? That's the big issue there. Money line against the Chargers on opening week. Now, if there's a team that could choke at home and have the stadium have no feeling that it was a home game, it would be the Los Angeles Chargers, yes. Which, when watching Charger games that are played at, SoFi Stadium, when watching their games, it appears you're thinking, oh, shit, I bet on the Chargers and they're on the road.
You think they're on the road?
Doesn't it? I mean, like if they're playing the Packers, playing the 49ers, how is it possible that the 49er fans could outnumber the Los Angeles Charger fans at SoFi Stadium to where you would literally think that they were playing, somewhere around, where is it? San Jose or wherever they play? Do you know the way to San Jose? It was Palo Alto there for a while, was it not? Where was Candlestick? That was right in San Francisco.
Yeah, it's just outside San Francisco. Levi's.
What a slime ball stadium that was, man. The last time that park was, that was Kezar Stadium that they had in Dirty Harry. That's where the guy was that had kidnapped the kid and buried him alive or whatever. Kezar Stadium. That was another dump of a stadium they had in San Francisco. But, I mean, is it possible? And would you take it into consideration, Louis? The two factors would be what? That Tua is coherent and that the right side of the Dolphins' offensive line somehow finds a way to gel and come together. Would it then be worth it with a choking dog team like the Los Angeles Chargers to think that they could lose on opening day to a Miami Dolphin team that is once again operating under false, but nonetheless, perhaps false, but nonetheless great expectations? The fact they were the same team record-wise last year as they were the year before is somewhat bizarre, is it not?
Yeah, it's annoying. Look, I mean...
Waddle and Tyreek Hill were brilliant last year.
But they had a lot of injuries. Like the middle to late part of the year, their offensive line was battered and bruised, and the defensive backfield was battered and bruised. And that caught up with them, and that gave them a lot of trouble. I think that's my thing is they haven't added... this Austin Jackson and Liam Eichenberg both suck. And the fact that they're still counting on them to be a part of the offensive line rotation is utterly an abomination.
Yes. McDaniel, what do we think of him? Did he get a little strange towards the end of the year?
It's not bad. He got cute. Like the running game actually started to do something, and he would go away from it, which made zero friggin' sense. It's like, dude, you have Skylar.
Remember how pissed Tesler was that his guy got like 6 carries in the game, and they averaged 18 yards a carry,
and they were running well. Like they finally started running the ball well, and he was like trusting Skylar Thompson. Like, what are you doing?
That was ugly, huh? Skylar Thompson.
That's so stupid, man.
Late in the season, that was really ugly. All right, we're discounting the Buffalo Bills, Lubie. You hate the Buffalo Bills, I believe.
I mean, I still think they're the best.
I think it's a South Florida bias. I mean, if you were going to despise a team other than the New York Jets, it would be the other team from Western New York there, the Buffalo Bills, who we've been waiting for to break through. I thought the Bills would possibly be a Super Bowl winner last year. I don't think you could discount that. And yet, towards the end of the season there, Josh Allen started to do things that made you wonder if he had made all of the progress to superstar stature that it appeared he had, prior to maybe the last 4 or 5 games of the year. Josh Allen was starting to make mistakes, bozoic mistakes. So do we discount them? I mean, they were a very good team. Supposedly, Stephon Diggs is pissed off, Lubie. He doesn't like the play calling. That's the word on the streets today, which I don't know, how true that may be. But he boycotted, I guess. He sat out one of the organized training activity deals and then returned to training camp, but still having demonstrated his discontent with the play calling that was being exhibited because they don't throw him the ball every time, which they might try, right? But Buffalo, we discount Buffalo, and you refuse to acknowledge that the New York Jets are contenders this year. In fact, what kind of odds are you getting on the Jets?
I just want to see Aaron Rodgers behind that offensive line in New York and see how well he'll handle when things go wrong, because you can be the best team in the league. You're still going to have some issues at some point.
What will be his first love interest in New York? Can you bet on that?
Oh, no, I don't know.
Because he's going to link up with some New York celebrity. Who's big there? Brooke Shields? I mean,
no idea. Who
does he end up dating? Aaron Rodgers?
No clue.
Would you bet that? I mean, like that would be an interesting prop bet, no?
Mm-hmm.
It would be, you would have to accept, that if you had seen these people pictured together somewhere, that they were an item. How do you make the determination on when to make the payoff on that? Is there a length that they have to be together?
I have no idea.
No, the first woman that he's linked with. I guess that would be the prop.
Yes.
What do you think? Give me any kind of Madonna. Does he end up with Madonna?
No, she's old. I don't know any New York, and she's done a lot of surgery where she looks like utter garbage. I don't know.
Oh no, she looked like she was wearing Tupperware on her face.
She's like a panther. She went insane with the surgeries. I don't know. New York based. Everyone's LA. Like, who's a New York based celebrity?
There have to be many, no?
Ivanka Trump.
Does he steal Beyonce away from Jay-Z?
No.
You think? No. Rodgers?
No.
He's had, a pretty good run of women.
Yeah, he's done fine.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that I thought Danica Patrick was the babe that everybody else did. But
I loved Olivia Munn.
You have to give him credit for being adventuresome by even riding with her in a car. All right, there's our assessment of the NFL. Who will Aaron Rodgers be linked to first in New York? What New York female celebrity will it be? I mean, it could be a lot of them, Lubie. Come on.
Are there? I don't know any of them. Who's a New York celebrity? Like
all those people on like network television? Does he end up with Gayle King? No, she's got somebody. Amy Robach, the one that got dumped from Good Morning America. Maybe she dumps that guy, T.J. Holmes, and ends up with Aaron Rodgers. Is that possible?
There you go.
Could make a lot of money if you could hit that, Libby. All right, we'll see you later on. The Mike Mayo Show comes your way. The Mike Mayo's Lunchbox Show comes your way at 12 o'clock today. And those Friday sessions at Gulfstream have been great, fantastic. I love that 10 Palms deal where we are getting grub off the menu. Well, what a diverse menu. That's fantastic. So we'll have some food and eating advice. We didn't really get into the barbecue thing. And there are a whole bunch of new places, right? Where to get good barbecue? What side would you order from a barbecue place if you were picking up a side to attend a barbecue?
See, and
you weren't going to make it yourself.
When I think barbecue, I think Southern and barbecue. So I think mac and cheese. I'm a big
mac and cheese. Okay,
good creamy, cheesy mac and cheese.
Yeah,
right. I think but I know there's a ton of other other like barbecue kind of things.
Sure. Beans, when you pick up baked beans, or
like
is
a
that
staple. I've never
something
been
you could just make
beans
yourself?
guy. I've never been like loved baked beans.
Oh no, I'm a big fan of baked beans. I don't eat them very often because at 72, the gas alone would be enough to create a situation where some environmental agency would have to intervene and get me to stop eating them. All right, we'll see you at 12 o'clock today. It's been a lot of fun being with you. Kind of a rambling, disjointed effort here today, but nonetheless, we did it.
Yeah,
and
we didn't have any
we're going to let.
So you meandered like we used to when we did 4 hours. Usually the 2-hour shows, when you have a couple guests, it's hard to meander. It's not that it wasn't good. It was just that we used to have to fill 4 hours, so you'd meander more. Since we've used space
go all over the place
with 2 hours, you haven't had room to meander. So today, you just meandered. I don't think it meant it was bad. I think it was actually just one of our.
Thought it was all right. Okay. This is what we do. We meander.
More us than we've done in like 6 months.
Yeah, where you're talking about one thing and then you're totally on a different topic, like within seconds, and never get back and finish the thought that you had on the first thing.
Exactly. We just haven't done that in a while.
Modern American broadcasting. I will see you at 12 o'clock as we leave you know that.
The time.
It's 9:03.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
To my soul.